Hey guys, welcome to the long-awaited interview with my father. I'm not going to tell you his name. I'm going to let him introduce himself with his name and everything. But hold on one second. I'm not quite ready. Now I am. So, please state your name.
Anthony Ferrara.
All right. And Anthony, how old are you?
85.
85 years old. So I just have a couple questions that I'd like to ask as part of this interview. First question is, when were you born? What was the date?
March 27th, 1923.
Wow, 1923. So that's 23 years after the turn of the century.
Right.
Who is the first president that you can remember?
President Harding.
Harding?
Yes.
Do you know what number president he was?
Not really. No, he was the president during the war, during the First World War.
Oh. Wow. That's pretty cool. So, when you were born in 1923, do you remember some things that over the past 84 or 5 years that are around today that weren't around back in 1923? Like, did they have cars, or was it horse and carriage? Did they have microwave? Did they have refrigerators like we have today? Computers?
No, none of those things that you mentioned, but they did have the beginning of automobiles in that period. Because I remember when the Ford came out, my neighbor bought one for $400, Model T.
Man, I wouldn't mind buying a car today for $400.
Yeah.
Be a piece of junk. Wow, that's pretty cool. So were you guys excited when your neighbor bought this Model T?
Oh yes, we'd go back in his backyard and sit in it.
Did you ever get a chance to drive it?
No,
Well, let me ask you this: back then, when the cars were coming out, the Model Ts, and they were $500, what were the license? How did they? When did they start setting up driver's license and things like that, and the RMV and things like that? You know?
I don't recall that because I wasn't of age to, having to get a license. I was just a teenager, really. Sure, when Hoover was, when the crash came in 1929, but I was only about 5, 6, 7 years old. So then the only first thing I knew was after that, then when Roosevelt became president, that's when I began to recognize anything. Because he put a lot of people to work. He was the New Deal president, and of course
This was during the Depression?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure, I lived through all that Depression period.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm getting to that. Hold on one second. I got some very key questions that I'd like to ask you. But I want to get back to this real quick with the Model T.
Mm-hmm.
So could you just go out and drop $500 and get a Model T and then just start driving it around?
Oh heavens, no.
Did they have registration and things like that?
Well, no, I wasn't old enough.
No, not you, but your neighbor.
Well, oh yes, he did. Oh yeah.
But did he have to get a license plate and go all through the stuff that
Yes,
you had to today?
yes, he did.
What state were you living in?
Massachusetts.
Did they have excise taxes back then?
I don't recall. I don't think so.
Well, yeah. I wonder when they came up with that idea. Brilliant.
I don't know.
They don't have excise taxes in Florida, you know. Good stuff.
Oh boy, that's interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I owe like $177 on 2 vehicles back from 2001 that I got to pay excise tax for this state.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, Massachusetts. Nothing in Florida though.
Oh.
That's good stuff. Okay, let's move on. Let's get down to the Great Depression era. Were you ever in the military?
Not during the Depression. I didn't go to the military until 1940, 41.
Oh, okay. And the Depression was 1929, 30?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's kick it back a little bit to the Depression, okay? How was that experience for you and your family?
Well, we're a large family. There was 8 boys besides myself.
Wow.
And then there was my 2 sisters.
What nationality were you guys?
Italian. And my mom and dad were first generation Italians in America, They came over from Italy,
Oh, really? Whereabouts from Italy did they come from?
Sicily,
Ah, the southern part of Italy.
right.
That's where all the gangsters come from.
So they say.
So they say. So did they have to learn the language? English, I mean?
Yes, they did.
Wow.
Yes, they did.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It was tough for my mother, but my father wasn't so tough because he was out on the workforce. My mother spent most of her time at home.
What did your father do for work?
My father was a painter.
Was he a painter by trade in Sicily and then came over and started doing that here?
No, I think he started that over here. He was just a young man at the time.
Really?
And he did carpentry work. But during the Depression, of course, there was a lot of work that Roosevelt instituted in order to get the country back on its feet. There was WPA and all kinds of work that he put into practice to put people to work.
Mm.
But that was mainly for the people that were of age that could go to work, not for kids. Teenagers and stuff. Of course, there was nothing. Of course, there was a lot of large families in those days too. So whatever kind of work they could get. But in Norwood, it was very interesting because Norwood was just beginning to become a town of its own. And Charlie Bird came in and made the town good, which was Bird and Son.
Yeah, now they have Bird Park over there at Walpole.
Yeah, and they also had
Go
tannery.
Rebels.
Winslow Brothers and Smith came in and
They had a tannery?
Yeah, tannery. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
They did tanning in Norwood and Walpole.
Yes, they did.
Oh, wow.
And
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
and then they also had the Norwood Press, which was bookmaking and things like that. That came into being. And then there was the ink mill down off Dean Street, which was, from what I was told, was the only ink producing factory in the world. Was there in Norwood.
In Norwood?
Yeah.
Massachusetts?
Yeah. And that was when the town began to hire people, when these men came in and put these factories up. That put people to work. But during the Depression, it was tough. Very, very tough. They were a young nation, a young town, just broken away from Dedham. Dedham was part of Norwood. And
You mean Norwood was a part of Dedham, and
yeah,
Norwood
that's
broke
right.
away?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So Norwood succeeded from Dedham,
yes,
like Key West did from America back in the day.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And
I didn't know that.
Sure. And then,
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Sure, the Winslow School was named after Mr. Winslow, I think, who was at the tannery, Winslow Brothers and Smith. And all these famous names that began to pop up because they were coming into Norwood to build the city, the town up, and with it they brought in their industry.
So all these rich people came into Norwood, where you were living with your family at the time,
Right.
during the Great Depression. Now, 1929, you were 7 years old. No, you were
Well, if I was 85, 23,
23.
I was 7 years old.
You were 7 years old. That's right. My math was right. 1930. You were 7. So the Great Depression hit. Fortunately, it sounds like it was like a twist of fate there, of good fortune, where all these rich people came in and started sinking their businesses into Norwood. So your family kind of jumped on the bandwagon there and started to capitalize on this, huh?
Sure, because the country was beginning to wake up after the Depression under Roosevelt. He had a lot of laws come in, and with it, some of the industries came into Norwood and Walpole, and it tied in and began to make the town, which was a new town from Dedham, and they naturally, they saw it because they had the railroad too come through there. That was another big thing that made Norwood very successful.
Wow.
Was they put a railroad through, and of course we had the trolley trains, the trolley tracks.
Oh, that's good.
From East Walpole all the way into Dedham and Boston.
So 1929, 1930, the Depression hits, and you're 7, 8 years old, and the family made it through that.
Very hard, very hard.
Your dad was painting,
Yeah.
probably using lead paint.
Yes. Mixing his own paint, right.
So if he was alive today, he'd get in trouble.
Yes.
No lead paint.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
That's
That's
right.
interesting.
Yeah, he was a painter.
I think this country was afraid of Superman back in the day. That's why they painted everything with lead in it. That's my thoughts. But anyways.